One of the things that I've noticed in the years that I've gotten into politics, especially the last few years, is the way that the Black community, especially Black women, are patronized in a way that, there's still what I perceive to be this sort of patting on the head thing, and always complimenting and saying how important the Black vote, especially the Black women vote, is to the Democratic Party, let's say. And then as soon as they ascertain power, they go right back down to the bottom. Yeah, we'll get to you maybe at some point, but we got priorities. And so I'm curious as to what that experience has been like for you personally as you've observed it, because again, I'm a white man, but I'm not blind. And I just want to make sure that people fully understand what it's like to have to go through that. And you go through it every couple of years. And I don't know how anybody deals with it anymore.
Well, I think what happens is you become a little bit skeptical. Not a little bit, you become a lot skeptical. And it's a turnoff, and it leads to disengagement, and I think it happens so frequently. Every election cycle it happens, and it's discouraging. And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, this is what I expect. And that's why when I see people who take political stances, and it may appear radical to some, it doesn't bother me, because if as Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. Yeah. There must be a demand, and you can't go and ask for it nicely. You have to take it. And I think that we're in this situation where a lot of people feel that there's no authenticity. I think it's what draws people to someone like Nina Turner, because they feel like she is authentic and that she deeply cares and she will fight for them. But you're absolutely right. I feel like we see this election cycle after election cycle. And what's disturbing for me is there are a group of people who, even though we know this, who will still try to beat Black people over the head if they do not vote the way that they want them to do. They want them to vote.
Yeah.
And this reached a fever pitch this past election cycle. And it was just, it was sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, but, and as people that have recently been through a campaign, its demographics are seen in a monolithic way in so many different areas, but specifically in the Black community, you're definitely treated like there's this monolith, like, oh, all Black people should vote this way because, is anybody doing anything for a Black agenda on that? Is there reparations in your platform? Like what are you bringing to the party, figuratively, literally, and it's not much. And all of the things that would best suit really everybody in this country would exponentially help Black women. Things like single payer healthcare and childcare and public college and a minimum wage and, all of these things. I mean, that is, as far as like the poverty and vulnerable, that it helps the people that are most vulnerable the most. And yet the Democrats are selling themselves, oh yeah, of course we're the party for the Black agenda. In what way?
And Jen and I were just talking before you came on the air about who were the Democrats negotiating with. They were negotiating against themselves, or specifically against their corporate donors, because they passed the bill without a single GOP vote. So you kind of have to wonder, well, what exactly are you holding back on?
Yeah.
That to me, I think speaks volumes. And I think a lot of people are starting to catch on to that. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that we always need a group of people who are going to keep pushing the line. You can never become content just because your quote unquote party is in office. You still have to push the line. And one of the beautiful things that we saw last summer, of course, it was born out of tragedy and unspeakable horror, but we saw a protest movement, not just in the United States, but across the world, like what we haven't seen. I don't know if we've ever seen people take to the streets as we saw last summer. And that energy and that fire, and that demand, we have to be willing to level it even towards people who we consider our friends, And so I think that when people voted this past election cycle, the nation was very clear that the nation was in trouble and that people want change. And we have to be able to ask even our friends. We have to be able to hold them accountable as well. We can't go quiet just because our quote unquote party is in office. We have to be willing to hold whoever accountable, and the agenda has to be more important than the personality.
All right. And I wanted to just go back for a second because I'd written something down, and it's something that as a white person that I'm cognizant of, but don't really, it's hard to really understand it great, is the difference between like racism and colorism and what you deal with within the Black community, especially as darker skinned women have dealt with in the Black community, and what that's like, because I don't think that a lot of people that are white really understand what that's about, because to them it's all racism. So how can you be racist if you're Black? If you're Black, you can't be racist. I don't think people understand what that really looks like.
Okay, so I don't believe that Black people can be racist. Racism is about power, and so it's about power, and collectively Black people have experienced a loss of power. So I don't believe that Black people can be racist. When it comes to colorism, and when it comes to anti-Blackness, I think America is anti-Black by default. I think that even people who are interested in being anti-racist, they still have to do anti-racism their entire life. You don't get to the point where just because you have good feelings, or just because you have a few Black friends, or you've taken a few diversity courses, where you can opt out. If you live in this country, as long as you are breathing, you are doing anti-racism work. And the thing is, because we all live in this world that is anti-Black by default, all of us must be thinking about how we hold each other, and that includes Black people. And so the standard for many people is to be as close to white as possible, or the desire is to be as close to white as possible. And so if you can't, if you're not white, well, how light are you? And, years ago, there was a brown paper bag test. And if you were lighter than that brown paper bag, then you had a different set of opportunities. If you were darker than that paper bag, then, you missed out on a lot of opportunities. Colorism is extremely painful. And I have seen the pain on both sides, but it's extremely painful because you don't get to pick your skin color, right? Both of my parents are darker than me, but I still turned out this way. But you don't get to pick. And with Black people, there's been so much rape in our bloodline that you really don't know how your kids are going to come out, But in the Black community, there are many people who have adopted the same standards as the dominant society, or the mainstream, or the white society, meaning in terms of how beauty is defined. And so I think that colorism is very, very dangerous. It's very, very painful. And here's what I mean. If you look at pop culture, when this interview is over, if not tonight, tomorrow, go look at Black films. Look at the husband and look at the wife. The wife is
always lighter.
Almost always light.
Always.
And look at their kids. They're going to have a daughter who's light skinned, and they're going to have a son who's dark, right? And then look at women who are my complexion and darker. And TV series, they're most likely they're not going to be married. There was I wish I could remember the brand, but there was a brand that just launched a new product, and it was something about love. And everybody in their commercial was coupled except for the Black woman. There was a Black woman and she was single, right? But when you are constantly told, or when you constantly see that light is preferred, that is very, very hurtful. And so there are people who have been deeply, deeply traumatized. Now, by the same token, I have people in my family who are biracial. I have people in my family who are very, very fair, and they have received a ton of pain because they feel like, well, where am I accepted? I'm not accepted by white people. I'm not accepted by Black people. I didn't choose my skin color. I wrote an article on colorism for medium.com, and I wrote it last year. And what I said was that Black America still has a problem with dark-skinned Black women. And I stand by that. And if I could write that article over, the only thing that I would add is that there's a pain associated with being light too, because people want to exoticize you. People want to hold you accountable for things that you have no control. So that is a hot button topic. And Jen, I'll tell you something. I have not talked to a single Black woman who's dark skinned who cannot recount a painful experience based on their color.
Yeah, that doesn't, you know what? I'm not surprised. I don't know an adult woman that hasn't been violated as a woman. So why would there be a dark skinned Black woman that hasn't been somehow vilified for being darker skinned? I mean, it's sad to me. The whole thing is sad to me.
It's not just vilified. It's what society presents as desirable.
As beautiful.
And so I have a rule in my house. If you want to give my daughter a gift, that's fine. But you better make sure that gift, if it's a baby doll, and I don't want too many of those, that it looks like her skin color, because I want her to see the beauty in the skin that she's in. She can't control that skin.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because when I was in college, I used to collect Cosmopolitan covers because there was this period of time when the art director who did them, they were really artsy and cool. And I used to collect them all, whatever. And I remember at one point there was a model on there who was really, really dark. And I just could not get over how beautiful she was. Like I thought she looked like she came from like the heavens or something. Like I thought she was just beautiful. And so, I get that. And just somehow that it never was something that I thought, and it bothers me that there's not more people that get this. And so what kind of stuff can we do to promote that so that there are more things that are, inclusive for people, because I just think it's all about the more we see that as normal, the more we see that as beautiful, the more whatever the thing is. I just think that's what we need.
So I think that we need to all do our own anti-racism work. And we also need to really focus on anti-Blackness and what it looks like. I think producers and writers and directors and people who are in charge of casting, they have to do a better job of presenting the full range of Black people. They can't just stick with this light-skinned version, because it's not fair to that person and it's not fair to the rest of us. I think
it's not real. That's not real. Those are there's real people are varied.
Yeah, it's one piece. But I think that the more that we see diversity of hue in popular culture, in the media, I mean, you can even look at media at media outlets, and who are their anchors? If they have a Black anchor, who are they? And so the more that we can do to put different types of Black women on TV, in popular culture, on sitcoms, or what have you, the better.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.